Epstein, I think, it's a good example, but the reason why it went away the way that it did is because he was permitted to kill himself. The public integrity section of DOJ, which Jack Smith used to run, has always gone after political figures. Certain jurisdictions where law enforcement is led by partisan officials in one-party jurisdictions, it's always ripe for corruption. This has happened throughout history. Again, to go back to some names I've used before, Thomas Jefferson ordered the arrest and indictment of Aaron Burr. Not for killing Alexander Hamilton, but for treason. After trial, Aaron Burr, the former vice president of the United States, was acquitted. But it was a politically driven prosecution because, once again, they were on opposite sides of the political aisle. He was vice president under Thomas Jefferson. So it has happened before. But to the degree that it's happening now, I think it's more of the politicians unleashing a monster that's always been there with DOJ.
How do the agencies tie into this? The weaponization of the FBI, the CIA, the NSA. How do these tie in?
When you have leadership in agencies that are tied to the partisan groups, that can lead to abuse. I believe that the vast majority of FBI special agents are professional and do their job. However, the FBI has probably one of the highest percentages of non-special agent employees of any law enforcement agency out there. And their leadership and their analysts and their non-gun and badge carrying people who are making these decisions, I think a lot of them, are the political appointees that do steer what the priorities are. When I was dealing with Jack Smith's team, the prosecutors were definitely, very focused on their angle. But I actually got along very, very well with the FBI agents on Jack Smith's team. And I thought that they, in my opinion, were honest and trying to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the ones carrying a badge and a gun, not the others. And so then when you take that over to the CIA, NSA, any of these other agencies, these agencies should be free from that type of political interference, should be. Because once you get politics into it, that shapes everything, not just the way that they do business, who they target, how they write up reports. But it's not new. Has the CIA written up a report that would support invading Iraq with weapons of mass destruction? Gulf of Tonkin to justify the entry into the Vietnam War? These things have happened, throughout history. It's more public now. I remember a few years ago, it seemed like there was a significant rise in shark attacks on the New Jersey coastline. And I went and looked it up because it seemed like every week there was another report about a shark attack. And I looked it up, and guess what? The attacks hadn't changed. The media coverage had. So it seemed like there were a lot more shark attacks, but there weren't. And the same is true here. The more you see of it, the more it seems like these things are happening. But before, you just didn't see it.
Why do you think cases like Epstein are just being whisked away into nothing?
Well, Epstein's case, I think, would have probably gone a different way had he survived the trial. That certainly is something. There's always, pressure being brought when, certain cases could reveal embarrassing things about, people in power. Epstein, I think, it's a good example, but the reason why it went away the way that it did is because he was permitted to kill himself. And yes, I said that very specifically. That's my belief, is that he was permitted to kill himself.
It's things like this, like the Epstein, stuff, the not releasing the manifesto from the shooter at Covenant School. It's why it appears that the FBI is not doing its job. It's the Parkland shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Guy was, hey, we need to look at this guy. Hey, here.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. Bam. Then the school shooting happens. It's so many things just get swept under.
Because the people that are in power want to stay in power, and therefore they need to cover themselves. So many times, my main job is fighting against the government.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that means go into a courtroom and go toe-to-toe with them and beat them. Oftentimes, it means find a solution where we can avoid a courtroom. And so oftentimes I'm sitting here, and this is what I do in a lot of cases, is I sit there and I think, okay, what is a resolution for this case that allows my opponent an honorable exit? Like, I'll have a situation where, the government did absolutely the wrong thing. They came to the absolute wrong conclusion. And I'll go to them, and if I just go in there and say, you screwed up, you did this, you did that, chances are we're going to get into a fight, we're going to go into the courtroom, we're going to get into a big ugly brawl. I'm going to win. But if I instead am able to present it in a way, I'm doing this, I have done this in several cases where I say, okay, I disagree with what you have done. However, here is a solution where you can give me what my client needs, and at the same time you save face by saying that this is based on new information, whatever it is. As a lawyer, I'm often strategizing on, I know the government's never going to admit that what they did was wrong. But can I present it to them of like giving them, this is your way out, and this is your way of saying we did the right thing. Make it politically acceptable for them to do the right thing and not have to admit that they did the wrong thing. And that's where I get the majority of my cases resolved, where you've never read about them. So you have to remember, with every single one of these cover-ups, the people in power want to stay in power. And therefore, they are going to do what they can to control the narrative and to make sure that you don't know, the truth, anything that is embarrassing to them. And if that means classifying things that shouldn't be classified, if that means, putting out stories in the press or books or other things that are not true just so that they can protect themselves, it is what they do.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.